Hey there, it is Faith Talk Live. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
Hey, we're pumped about talking with Erica Wiggenhorn. She is an author, and she's got a brand new book out. It's called Letting God Be Enough, Why Striving Keeps You Stuck, and How Surrender Sets You Free. Erica, how are you?
I'm great. How are you gentlemen today?
We are doing well. Thank you for joining us. And I mentioned before we got started that your background there, it's very cool. I don't know if those are like sound tiles or what they are, but they're very cool looking, very calming looking behind you.
Well, I need all the calming I can get. I have 2 teenagers.
Oh, yes. We'll pray for you right now.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, let's talk a little bit about you and your family. What do you guys do normally? Do you have traditions for the Christmas season, or do you just make them up as they go? What do you guys do?
You know, that's a really interesting question. we always had Christmas traditions, things that I was so adamant as a mom about doing every year.
Yeah.
And now that I have a 15 and a 17-year-old, they're just not as compliant about the traditions as they used to be.
You're right.
They're like bucking the whole system, and I'm just not. I'm trying to let it go. I'm trying to let God be enough. But it's a little disappointing as a mom. It's like, come on, guys, we've always done these things. Why are we not excited about them anymore?
Yeah.
But yes, I think this was the first year that I decorated our Christmas tree all by myself.
Uh-oh.
Nobody wanted to do that.
Look out.
But that's okay, because it was a sweet time with just me and Jesus and Cece whining, singing in the background. So, it was all good.
Yeah. So did they walk in afterward and go, oh, well, you decorated without us? Or were they like, oh, I didn't even notice?
No, I kept asking them to come in and decorate. And they were like, sure, Mom. Okay, Mom. Yeah, Mom.
Right
okay. But, I'm only 5 feet. So they did have to get roped in at the very end to do the last 2 feet of the tree.
So the top of the tree would have some decorations on it. Yeah.
Yes, because even with the ladder, I couldn't reach it.
I don't think you're the only one that's experienced this, Erica. I think this is, it's happened even here at the Probst house. So, but we're sorry you had to suffer with that. So that means you're the only one getting presents this year.
That's right.
Well, could be. I don't.
Hey, here's a great book that should be on your present list. It's Letting God Be Enough, Why Striving Keeps You Stuck, and How Surrender Sets You Free. All right, Eric, I want to ask you, define for us, if you will, striving, because sometimes I don't know if I'm striving or not. I'm like, I know I'm not supposed to, but am I striving? Am I not striving? I don't want to be lazy, so help me here.
Yeah, great question. Well, we know we're striving when we're operating from a place of fear. When we are feeling inside of ourselves, like, if I don't do this or I don't do this right, I'm going to be rejected, or people are going to judge me or think less of me or be upset with me. I don't know. Are either of you recovering people pleasers? When we start thinking thoughts like that, then what we are doing is coming from a place of fear, and we are striving. We're not doing these things because we want to do it, because we love to do it, or even because we see value in it in any way. We're simply doing it to avoid rejection or upsetting someone else or someone else's critical analysis or judgment of us.
Wow. Wow. That's
and
so
sometimes that includes fear of upsetting or disappointing God, right, in our relationship with God. So we feel like we have to keep doing things to please him and to earn that love, when, like you said, just let go.
Yeah. You hit the nail on the head, Dan, when you said earn their love. That is when we are striving, and God has told us that we are already infinitely loved. And as his children, our identity is his. We belong to him, and there's nothing that we can do to separate us from that love. of God for us. And so what we end up doing, though, is because we don't rest in that, we end up constantly searching for love and acceptance from other people.
Mhm.
And other people do not unconditionally love us. And so we end up in these cycles of striving in unhealthy relationships, trying to secure that love from fallible and foibled human beings whose love is not consistent, and it ends up in quite a cycle. But God desires to set us free from that and to teach us how to truly surrender to Him and to rest in the fact that we are of inestimable worth before His eyes, whether we perform or don't perform. Nothing changes in how He views us. And that's peace, my friends.
Yeah, definitely.
Erica Wiggenhorn, she's talking about letting God be enough while striving keeps you stuck, and how surrender sets you free. You talk about self-doubt, you talk about imposter syndrome, and of course the striving there. I love that definition because I struggle it. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And so why did you feel like now was the time? Is it something, did you hear so many people around you struggling, or you saw so many people around you struggling with this and you say, look, I'm going to get this down so that people can get over and through this thing? Or is this something that maybe you wanted to help yourself with? What?
So this is something that I struggled with my whole life, just perfectionism, people pleasing, feeling like you have to perform at a certain way or certain level, trying to keep the peace. This is my life story, but it really came to a head for me a couple of years ago. I was actually in Chicago for the very first time, going to Moody Publishers, which is the publisher of all my books. And I was with a fellow author and dear friend, and we were getting ready to leave our hotel room and get in our cab to drive to the publisher. And immediately, I just began to sweat and my hands began to shake, and I just felt my stomach twist in a knot. And I looked at my friend and I said, I can't go. I mean, I'm going to show up there and they're going to take one look at me and go, what in the world were we thinking publishing this knucklehead? They're going to pull my next contract out and rip it to shreds in front of me and say, game over, you've been found out, you're done. And that was what I honestly felt. I honestly felt like I cannot go in there. They will reject me. And she just sort of cocked her head at me and she said, oh my goodness, you have imposter syndrome. And I was like, imposter syndrome? What is that? And I Google it, and sure enough, all the things I was thinking and feeling in that moment were bullet pointed right there on my phone.
Wow.
And she said, we're going to put an end to this lie of the enemy right now. You're going to go to Moody Publishers and they are going to adore you as much as I do, friend. And we're going to put an end to this. So my friend doesn't take no for an answer. So I cinched up my belt on my coat and out we went. And, I made it through the day and I feigned enthusiasm being there, but inside I'm just a nervous wreck the entire time. And when we got back to our hotel room that night, I laid my head down on the pillow and I just sensed God say to me, today was supposed to be just a day of joy and celebration. For what I have done in your life. And you allowed a lie to completely ruin it and rob you of every moment of joy.
Wow.
And God was like, when are we going to put an end to this? When are you going to let me deal with this in your life? It's time to deal with this lie. And I knew in that moment, I thought, man, I don't want to live like this anymore. I don't want to live in just this constant fear of, somebody being upset with me, not of failing, of not doing it right, not doing it well enough, not doing it perfectly. I'm tired of this. But interestingly, as I began to sort of research this idea of imposter syndrome and talked to other people about it, I realized how incredibly prevalent it was.
Mhm.
And then I realized this is not something God longs to bring to healing just in Erica Wiggenhorn's life. This is something that God longs to bring healing in all of his kids' lives. And so I knew in that moment it would be a book. And the real kicker, though, guys, that just led me to want to write a book about this is the more I researched imposter syndrome and the more I researched what leading psychologists and thought leaders and business gurus are telling us how to overcome this syndrome in our lives. And I contrasted it with what God says about it in scripture. And I realized those were two very different messages. And because of a Bible girl, because, you know, the passion of my life is I want to get your face in the book, the Bible, and I want you to live like it's true. I realized people need to see how God answers this life of striving and this imposter syndrome and how fundamentally different it is from what the world is telling us.
Yeah. And I love how you tell us we're not alone. Moses also went through this same thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I call him the greatest self-doubter of the Bible. And what was so fascinating to me is as I began to dig through scripture and say, okay, where do I see this imposter syndrome in scripture? And I came across Moses. And what was so fascinating is, you know, culture tells us that if we struggle with this, what we really need to do is we need to stand in front of the mirror each day and we need to give ourselves props. We need to say, you know, hey, I've got all these things in my toolkit to get through this season, to get through this situation, to navigate this tricky assignment or difficult relationship. That's what I need to do, is I need to unroll my life resume and give myself some props. But the reality is that we're all going to face things in life where we've got nothing on our resume to prepare us for what we're walking through. You know, the woman sobbing in her living room because her husband just left has nothing on her resume to navigate that season. My husband's coworker who, you know, has a resume a mile long. She's a brilliant, accomplished woman. Walked into the office 3 months ago and said, my 11-year-old daughter has cancer. She's got a million letters behind her name, but she's got nothing on her resume to prepare her to be the mama of a cancer patient. Life happens and we don't have anything on our resume to give ourselves props. And so what do we do then? And what I found so fascinating is that when God answered Moses, when Moses basically stood before God and said, you know, who am I? Who am I to do this thing, to walk this path, to fulfill this assignment, to endure this season that you're placing before me, God? Who am I to do this? God did not unroll Moses's resume and give him a bunch of props. He did not cite one thing within Moses to get Moses through it. He simply said, I'm going to be with you. He didn't give him props. He promised him his presence. But he went on even further. Not only did he promise Moses his presence, he also promised him fulfillment. And he went on to say, and this is all in Exodus 3. If somebody out there is like, I got to reread this Moses story, I'm not remembering this. He not only promised him his presence, but he promised him fulfillment, because he said, when you come back here, you're going to worship me on this mountain. And I love that, because essentially what God is saying to Moses, you know, Moses hasn't even agreed to this plan yet. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I've gone through some stuff in life where I'm like, God, I'm just not on board with this plan. Like, I don't like this. You know, God's already saying, you know what, Moses, I'm going to be with you the whole way, and I'm going to finish what I start. You're going to come right back here after this is all said and done, and you're going to worship me. And I love that, because I think we need to be reminded that we have a God who always finishes what he starts, right? He promised us that in scripture, that he who began a good work in us is going to carry it to completion. And I'm quite certain there's somebody out there this morning listening, and they're just in the middle of the fire, and they just need to know God's got a plan here, and he's going to finish what he started. He's not going to leave you in the middle of this season, and he's with you in it. And so I just felt such a sense of freedom, because I was like, God's not telling Moses to look in the mirror and cite all of the reasons why he's got this as Moses. He's simply saying, Moses, stop looking in the mirror and look at me, because I've got you and I've got this. And then he concludes it with this beautiful promise that Moses is going to worship him. In other words, he's saying to him, Moses, you're going to witness my wonders through this process, and you're going to have an intimacy with me, Moses, that you don't have currently.
Yeah.
And I love that promise, because sometimes when we're going through things that we don't understand, we're going through difficulty, we're going through things that are just so overwhelming, and we feel like we've got nothing, and it's just such a faith walk. And God is essentially promising us that through this, you're going to experience an intimacy with me that you don't currently have. And you're going to witness wonders that you've never seen, aspects of my character that you have not experienced yet. And I love that, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to go through hard times for nothing. Yeah. I want to know there's something good that's going to come out of it. And so I love the fact that God is promising Moses all of these things. Yeah. And I think all of us at the end of the day, that's what our soul really longs for, is this intimacy with God. And we don't always know how to get there. We don't always know what the next step is in our lives in order to experience more of him and more of his wonders and more of his security and more of his love. And what he's really telling Moses here is it's through surrender. And, not surrender all in this like 30,000 foot abstract view, but it's surrender the next thing, the next thing in front of us. And so for many of us, that's the hard thing in our life right now, the thing that's just making us feel overwhelmed and we're not enough and we don't know what to do. Whatever that one thing is in your life, friends, that's what God is asking you to open your hands and say, God, I'm not enough, but you are, and I'm going to hand you this one thing today, and I'm going to choose in faith to believe that you are doing something in it and you're going to do something through it.
Yeah.
Wow. Love that. Erica Wiggenhorn. What a message. What a book. EricaWiggenhorn.com is the place to go to. Letting God Be Enough, Why Striving Keeps You Stuck, and how surrender sets you free. Erica, we would love to talk to you after the first of the year, maybe around February, March. You're such a delight. Love your message. Love your book. I got to go back and find it back here in the office and read it.
Wait, you haven't read it yet?
Not yet. I'll be a changed man the next time you talk to me. What a great message. Thank you for paying the price and putting it on paper and living it out. Check it out. Let God Be Enough. Letting God Be Enough. Why Striving Keeps You Stuck, and how surrender sets you free. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I'm Rick Probst.
And I'm Dan Ratcliffe.
This is Faith Talk Live.